Okay, welcome back, family. Welcome back, family, for part three, the third way I ruined my life. Um, Once again, if you ain't watched part two, please watch it because I'm about to wrap up on part two in this video. But from now on, I'm going to try and keep the parts within the parts and not be finishing the previous part in the next part. I can't promise that, but I will try. So part two was about dodgy relationships, and I did say there's probably about top 5 dodgy relationships that really shaped and impacted my life and has led me to where I am today. So bouncing off the second one I mentioned, or the first one should I say, that I mentioned, where I had to jump out of his window and run away from his mum. Bouncing off that relationship, obviously, lo and behold, it didn't work. It didn't lead to nothing, and then we ended up having like a breakup, which bothered me a lot. Shall I say? I was quite bothered about it. Whatever. So that night when that happened, I went down. I went onto the computer. These were computer days. I went onto Facebook when Facebook was fresh hot, and and I remember everyone having Facebook, and I never had Facebook. It was one of my bedrooms that came with, like, oh yeah, you should get Facebook, and she even made the account for me. That's another story for another day when I talk about dodgy relationships and stuff like that. Because since I had that Facebook account, that's another time my life went. Whereas if I stayed in my lane and just said no Facebook because that's not what I'm on, a lot probably would have been avoided. So watch out for friends too. And it's funny because, anyway, let's hold off on that. So I've gone onto Facebook that evening and I'm stressed. So I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'm just clicking around. And then I come across one guy who I was like, when I saw him, I was like, actually, yeah, I recognize you. I see you about the end, like, and obviously I've never really thought much about you, but obviously I must have thought something because now I'm seeing you on Facebook and I'm not happy. I'm interested, you know what I'm saying? I'm not happy in my ex, or like I'm looking for a next, I guess, basically. So, and you've caught my eye, so you know, obviously, whatever, threw him a message or whatever it was, a like or whatever, a nudge, I don't know. And then we got talking, and then either that same night or the next night, I went and I linked him. I remember waiting for my family, everyone went to bed, and then I jumped out the window. I snuck out and I went to go and link him. Either that night or one of the nights around that time. Cutting a long story short, you know, we ended up getting jiggy, and then I ended up becoming pregnant. I know, I know, guys. I know, I know. Okay, that is why I am doing this series. Yeah, that is why, and that is how I went from there to where I am today. So listen to what I'm telling you. I've ended up pregnant. I haven't even added this. This guy is basically like a semi-bedroom with the previous guy I was with that broke up with me. Just to add, yeah. So I've become pregnant now. I think I might save that actual saga for a whole separate series. In fact, for a whole separate series, I won't go too deep in that. But all I'll say is, obviously, I told him about it. He was not happy at all. Like, he threatened to come to my house that day and like F me up. He was like, I'm coming to your house now. I'm gonna kill you. You get me? It was just on a mad thing. And he was so mad that he called one of his bedrooms, and obviously was like going mad. So that bedroom called me, right? Who I was like kind of neutral with them. Obviously they got my number, or he sent it to me, or whatever. But they called me and they were like, yo, my man saying dot 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 dot. Is it true? And I'm like, yeah, it's true. And he's like, all right, cool. 1 minute. Put down the phone. I don't know what he went back to say to the guy that was linking, but ever since then, he was just calm. Like he wasn't threatening me and all them type of stuff. He was just like, all right, cool, come. I've told my mum, so come and meet my mum and let's like chat about it, etc., etc. So shout outs to that bedroom that called me and like basically intervened because he was coming to my yard, and I think by that time I hadn't told my parents. So imagine that, and my parents were at home at that time. So imagine that. That would have been so messy. So yeah, met his mom, etc. All of them things there. Sieving through the story, unfortunately, 3 months later, we went for our first scan and we lost the baby, which is something that I think I still need to kind of process and deal with. Like, I don't really talk about it unless I'm talking about it in a scenario like this or with a little tutu giggle. But really and truly, it's something I still haven't really faced or accepted or like allowed it to integrate, in my life as a part of my life, as a part of my story. It's still something that's very hurt. It's still touchy for me. I can't lie. So that's something I think sometimes I do try to process it myself, but I don't go all the way. I start and then it gets too much and then I stop. A bit like these videos, that's why they're not too long, because I start sharing the story, but sometimes that deep in me, I can feel that I'm getting overwhelmed. I can feel like it's triggering me, so I just kind of wrap it up or I sieve through the story quickly. So yeah, that's something that I've got to deal with. Um, so after we lost the baby, um, you know, I remember he said something to me so nasty. He was like, "Oh, you killed the baby. You did juju on the baby." I'm like, "What?" Like, I'm not trying to be like stereotypical, but he wasn't even African. So when he said literally the words "you done juju," I'm thinking, blood. What do you know about juju? I'm thinking, what do you know about juju? Like, you're Asian, bro. I guess they do have their own form, but it's just the fact that he used the word juju. But anyway, that's another topic. So that hurt me. I was like, you nuts, bro. Um, but somewhere along the line, I became obsessive again. Remember in part one, I believe, or part two, I talked about how I became obsessive over that guy that I gave my virginity to. So this obsessive thing came up again, and it's weird because I became obsessive about this guy, but it wasn't really about him. It was about the relationship. And now when I look back, I think I was basically trying to hold on to the baby. Like, I knew, like, because now the baby's gone, we're done. Like, we have no relationship. Like, but I was trying to hold on to that so I can kind of hold on to the baby in a weird way. So that was another kind of messy type of thing. And then one day he did something that really pissed me off, which I'm gonna say what it is. It sounds so trivial, but in a way, I thank God it happened. Basically, he went out and celebrated his birthday, which I didn't know about. I just saw some pictures on Facebook. Facebook again. Saw some pictures on Facebook with him, his bedrooms, and some girls. Obviously, I didn't get no invite. Which now, when I look back, it was never gonna be that anyway. But I was pissed off. Like it once again did something to my soul, just like I've mentioned in all the other parts. Did something to my soul, and I remember crying, but it wasn't a sad cry. It was a psychological cry, because after that, that was it. I was like, cool, I'm done. Like, it woke me up, it zapped me out. A bit like in part one when I talked about how, in part two, when I talked about how my friend gave me this look that woke me up. It was a bit like that. This, when he done that, it woke me up and it zapped me out of this zombie mode or whatever that I was in. Ever since then, never spoke to him. I wasn't obsessive about him. Didn't contact him. Didn't check nothing. I just went zoom. After that point, I think at one point he ended up messaging me like, "Yo, like, you get me?" Because it was so wild, guys. What I'm about to say, I used to send him poems every night. So though he didn't like me, that he was enjoying that. So when the poem stopped, he was like, "Yo, where's a poem?" I know. He was like, "Yo, where's the poem?" I was like, "Move." So, my baby boy's awake. I'll be back. All right, sorry about that. So, After all that, about 2 years later, I get a random call, private caller. And funny enough, like deep down in my soul, I was like, I think I know who this could be, you know. And lo and behold, it was him. The combo didn't last long. He was like, yo, I was like, yo, who's this? And he was like, it's there. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I just wanted to say sorry. And then boom, I just put down the phone. Never spoke since then. And that's over 10 years ago now. Over 10 years ago. So that's probably one of the reasons as well. I haven't really processed the thing and gotten over it because of how it ended. So maybe that would have been my opportunity actually if I didn't put down the phone to have actually listened to what he had to say, and then who knows, you know. But exactly, that's what these videos are about. 10 ways I ruined my life. There's a little bit more to that story, but there's big names involved in that. So I think I'll leave that till another time. If the time fits right and everything's all right, then yeah, I can add on to that bit. But for now, we'll leave it as that. And if you watch this video, you Mr. Man, hit me up. And then obviously if you want to, maybe he'll jump on this and then we'll talk about our experience together and share it. Okay. Whew. So it's already how many minutes in? And that's one of them. I've got the list. I'm thinking, if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this video gonna be long. All right, okay, let's get to it. Let's not waste time. So shortly after that, right, I was at uni and I met this guy. I was in town. I saw him with like a group of people, whatever. We kind of locked eyes, but I didn't think anything of it because where we were, I stood out in that area and he stood out. So obviously, you know them ones where you're in an area where, you know, so you kind of lock each other's eyes like, oh, okay, I see you, you see me. Went about my business, but then boom, standing there, get a little tap or whatever it was. He's like, yo. I was like, yo. And then he's like, I can tell you're not from here. I'm like, yeah, I can tell you're not from here. And then anyway, we started talking, kicked it off. Sorry, I'm getting glary eyed. I think that's one of them symptoms of like, I'm kind of spacing out a bit. Because I'm looking at this list and I'm just like, yo, by the time I finish saying these stories about this list alone, I'm gonna be fried. Maybe I'm doing too much. I think maybe I'm doing too much in regards to that. I think what I'm gonna try to do is spread out these stories. I cannot go through talking and thinking about this type of stuff in it, jolting, and be okay by this evening. So I think I'm gonna leave it as that for this video. I think I'm gonna leave it there for this video, and I'll spread the rest across the other videos. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it because though you may be learning or being entertained, I'm basically using this as therapy to kind of talk about my experiences in life, just to help me shed them a bit more. Obviously it's going to take me a lot more stuff to do to process things and kind of be able to let go of them, but this is definitely a first step. So big shout out to all of you watching and engaging or liking it or whatever. Like, it's good for me, I need it. So I appreciate you being in this safe space and sharing it with me and listening to me. Basically that's what you're doing, you're listening to me. So yeah, lots of love, and I will see you tomorrow for part 4, the 4th way I ruined my life.